Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody to our Conscious Cafe presentation today, evening here in the UK, as we've just discussed. And it's wonderful to be here with Anne Jones. We're going to be talking about the fifth dimension today, which some of you may knowingly live in or know about, and some of you may know nothing. So Anne's going to cover everything. It's going to be wonderful. I'm really looking forward to it. Before I hand over to Anne, let me introduce Anne. Anne has been with the Conscious Cafe community right from the start. She is a celebrated international healer, author. She does spiritual healing, teaching. She's an international speaker and an author of 7 books. Her bestseller, Healing Negative Energies, has been translated into 17 languages. Her latest book is How to Heal. And is a very practical teacher, so that's an interesting book, in which she shares the techniques and symbols she uses for healing past life and present life trauma, karma, and releasing negative imprints and attachments. She actually also has a charity called Hearts and Hands for Africa, giving practical help to villagers, for example, supplying solar power so that they reduce their dependency on kerosene. That sounds fascinating. And she founded an essential oil company, and it's still flourishing to 25 years. Well done, Anne. New Forest Aromatics. She loves writing and also is a lyricist, and she created a fantastic musical called Artaban. Renaissance woman, and that's what you are. Now I'm going to introduce you, hand over to you, and we're all going to welcome you in Conscious Cafe style, waving our hands in greeting. And over to you.
Thank you so much, and I'll wave my hands back to you too. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gina. Lovely welcome, and thank you, Judy. And thank you, Judy, for Conscious Cafe, an amazing, amazing organisation, and it's a real pleasure to be part of it, albeit not so hands-on as I was, but very much part of it in my heart and soul. I'm going to start our get together here today with a short meditation, just to allow you to separate yourself from your everyday world and all the problems that you're probably dealing with, and we'll look at reason why you might be dealing with so many problems later. So just relax, drop your shoulders, breathe in deeply, and I surround you with the blue flame of Archangel Michael, and your energy is sealed right now, right now. And as we seal your energy, only positive vibrations and light come through to you. Focusing on your spirit, connecting you to your higher self, that wonderful aspect of you which sits at a higher realm, holding a high vibration. Connecting you to this beautiful planet. You're grounded, strong, and centered. And just visualize yourself, or even do this, sweep from your shoulders all the burdens of your daily life, work, home, domestic, perhaps you're caring for others. Whatever you do in your life, just take away the burdens, the heaviness, and just slide it away now, so that you can be in a lovely light presence, as we are going to be talking about your spirit, the progress of your spirit, and the journey of your spirit. So just think spirit, detach yourself from your physical life and the inner state of your heart. In your heart center, in the middle of your chest, let that be your focus. Just absorb what's coming through today and enjoy the moment. Bless you. Okay, so lovely to have you all here. First thing I'm going to do is I always set intentions. Those of you who know me well, the first thing I always do when I'm doing any healing is to set intentions. And my intention today is to introduce you to 3 dimensions: the 3rd dimension, the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension, and the challenges of how we move through to the fifth dimension, which is our goal, and the upsides and the downsides. A lot of good things are coming up through this change, this shift in our consciousness, but there are also some challenges too. And I also want to give you some help along the way, and I will be leading you through a meditation that will help you speed up that process, give you some thoughts and ideas of things you can do for yourself to speed up and get yourself into this beautiful high vibration. Now, I want to just start off by sharing my experience of this high vibration, which we call the fifth dimension. I was coming home from a retreat I was running in Suffolk a few years ago. And as we were driving along, I was with somebody else in the car. I suddenly started to feel quite strange. It had been a fantastic retreat. I'd had a wonderful time, and we'd done lots of healing and meditation, communicating with nature. And we'd left on a pretty much a high. But as I was driving along, I started to feel a strange vibration. Now, I get whooshes a lot. This is my technical expression for those lovely vibrations of energy that come through when I'm healing. But this was much more than that. Well, what I couldn't make out what it was, I was tingling. I felt high, actually, really high. I thought, I've got to stop the car because I'm going to explode. So I stopped off at a service station. And this was the funny thing. I get out of the car and I'm standing on a grass verge, which a lot of dogs have used already. I won't go any further than that. And I look up, and yes, no, I'm not looking up at the sky and seeing a wonderful vision. I'm looking up at the sky and I see McDonald's arches. And I'm getting a full-blown experience of the most ecstatic nature. I felt completely in ecstasy, as if I wanted to go and love everybody. It's this consuming feeling of love, the most amazing experience. And it lasted for about 10 minutes. And then the McDonald's scene probably got the better of me. That night, when I got back, I asked my guides what was going on and what was happening. And I was told that I'd shifted at that moment into a very high vibration. And this sense of ecstasy was what the masters feel on the higher realms. And I said, well, I don't know how you can possibly function feeling like that all the time. They said you get used to it and it's a wonderful state to be in. And it literally is the state of the fifth dimension. So I'm going to move into showing you some screens now, and let's have a look at a little more detail at what this is all about. I must say it was very exciting for me. So I know we're going to have a wonderful journey in the years to come as we move more further and further into this state of being. And that's what the fifth dimension is. It's a state of being. It's an experience of love, peace, that inner peace. When I talk about peace, I mean that calmness inside. Although I was quite excited when I started this vibration coming through me, I very quickly felt it and moved into this is perfect state of being. This is perfect. So calm, wonderful. And the sense of love is incredible. You just want to love and grab everybody and give them a big hug, which I'm glad this was before we had COVID, because I wasn't allowed to do that through COVID. But this was that sense of joy. And this is the state of being that people talk about in different religions. The Christians talk about it when we come into heaven. They see it transcending the material world and the state of spiritual peace. The Buddhists call it nirvana. It's to them the end of the suffering of the constant cycle of coming to earth and the challenges of that. So there's this end of suffering for them. And the Hindus also call it nirvana, but they also call it moksha. So whatever, all the spiritual followings, religions throughout our world and in time going back into the ancient world, they've always known about this state of being. And it's what the soul wants to be. It's what our souls want to reach. So we have a driver, a strong driver within us. It's our spiritual driver to actually be in that state. So all that's constantly, all the time. So your own particular journey will be taking you from the third to the fifth and beyond. Many of you may already be experiencing a higher vibration than even the fifth dimension, but this is the one we're going to talk about today. Your personal journey on the spiritual journey means you're going to be experiencing cycles of life and death. You're going to visit Earth, and you may be visiting other planets as well. When I've done past life regressions, I did find myself in one particular place where there were two suns. And I don't know which planet that was, but that was one of my experiences. And I think any of you who've done past life regression, you probably come across this, that we don't always come to Earth, but most of the time we do. Our group of souls are using Earth most of the time to develop and grow. So the journey is a constant moving in and out. And I think it's quite important for us to remember that, because sometimes when life gets really tricky, you feel that you're all consumed by the horribleness that you're going through, the challenge you're going through. It's just good time to think, you know, this is only a very small part of your journey. And there's a lot more to come. And there's been a lot more. Look at the bigger picture. It's only a very small part of the time. And you can use that to help you through the difficult times. So we're facing challenges here. We're in a third dimension. I'm going to talk a bit more about it, but it is a challenging place. And you will be getting situations and experiences that throw you off track quite often. There are a lot of things to face when you're on Earth. And the greatest challenge of all, and I would think this is the bit where we're coming to the end, when we are reaching that point of we don't need to come back again, is when we're really finding our love in ourselves and love in everyone else. And that love in ourselves is probably the hardest thing of all, to love yourself. In a new age world, we were always saying, love yourself, love yourself. It's not easy to love yourself. We'll look at why. So what is the third dimension? Well, it's a very material world, as you know, and it's governed by senses of smell, sound, sight, taste, and touch. 5 senses that predominate everything we do. And it's very dense and it's a low vibration compared with the sense of spirit. Sorry. While we're here, we tend to be seeing life through the polarity of light and dark. Is it right or is it wrong? Am I right or am I wrong? And that brings in a lot of issues of blame and discord between people. When we come to Earth, we're coming from a different energy. Our spirit joins our body at when we're born, and we call it the soul. That's the part of our spirit. I don't know why this keeps doing this. Sorry about this. Let's stop that. When we're born, our spirit drops from a high frequency down to a low frequency, and we call that the fall. So what happens is, from being in a very knowing and understanding and smart and intelligent and know it all and connect to everybody and can see everything that's going on and being hugely intuitive and psychic and all those wonderful things, once we come to Earth, we forget who we are, and we forget that we're spirit. We disconnect from our guides and angels that are constantly with us. And we have to go through a learning process to bring ourselves back to it. And that's a sort of an awakening that people have. Everybody that's here today obviously is already awake, but there are an awful lot of people on Earth that aren't. And this is a state that you come down to. And it's a first challenge is to get back to understanding that you are a spiritual being in a physical body. We lose touch with the sixth sense, which is our intuitive sense, that knowing, that understanding, that we're seeing beyond the physical, beyond the material. We also lose touch with the fact that we are all connected, because every spiritual being on Earth is connected to every other spiritual being, because we're all the same energy. And we are connected, but we forget that. We lose touch with that fact. Now, there are children who see angels and they see spiritual beings, but they are soon talked out of it. So very soon you lose touch, even if you know when you're very small that you know this, you know more than you let on, if you like. You can't express it, but you know. Unfortunately, we often shut children down when they have that knowledge. Some of you may have had that experience when you were small. But generally speaking, we lose that connection. We also start to judge ourselves, and we are living through our emotions. So whatever we do, we make our decisions through emotions, and very often through the heavier emotions of guilt, fear, shame, anger. Our emotional body is very strong. Our emotions are very strong when we come to Earth. We call that cut the rope and jump. So why are we here? Why do we come to Earth? Well, it's a good place for us to evolve. It's a good place because we get challenged here, which we wouldn't get challenged if we stayed on our clouds. If we stayed on the higher realms, we don't get challenged. And it's the challenges that help us learn. We often talk about the lessons we're here to learn, and it's not that we are stupid. It's just that we just haven't learned. And I often look around and I think, well, people can be quite dismissive of people who haven't woken up. But I guess you can see it as they're in the kindergarten stage. And as you evolve, you move through your training and your schooling, and you become more knowledgeable. The more lives you have on Earth, the more knowledgeable you become. And you become knowledgeable in a knowing way. So you just have a sense of things, of the right things. So we are here to grow, and we're growing in consciousness, which is a perfect example of Conscious Cafe. an opportunity to meet and to share and to help each other grow. One of the other things we learn when we come to Earth is how to cope with the dark side. Now, not going to go in too much about the dark side. Obviously, I've written a book about healing negative energies. It's something that I spent a lot of time working with. But rather just to say that there are a lot of people around us who are wounded and hurt. And when people are wounded and hurt, they often bring out the worst side of themselves. So those things that we have to deal with, living with people who are damaged, people who are hurting, and who will then consequently very likely hurt us. We have to learn how to manage that. We learn all the time through every single challenge we have in our lives, all the experiences we go through, the situations we face in our work, in our family experiences, in our relationships. We're every day, and a lot of you will be finding that life is more challenging now than it was 20 years ago. And if you're older, as I am, you can say 40 or 50, 60 years ago is more challenging now. So I'll have a look and see why. Now, some of us are here, and all of us that are in this room at the moment will be part of this group, will be here as spiritual warriors, helping other people evolve. Lots of different ways of doing that. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to write many books. You may inspire people by the way you live your life. This will be part of your life purpose. Before we come to Earth, we decide what we're going to do. We make a plan. It's our plan. We choose our parents. We choose where we're going to be born, and we choose which families we're going to be born into. Often choosing a family that will give us the challenge for whatever we need to learn in this next phase, this trip to Earth, and what is it going to teach us? We can inspire people by the way we live, by being brave, or just living with love and kindness. Some of us will be here to teach spiritual truths, ancient truths, religion and spiritual teaching. Some will be here to spread the light consciously, and some will be doing it unconsciously, just by being that person that you are. We know the people that when they walk into a room, they light the room up. We know the people that inspire us. And on television these days, I mean, television is fantastic, and social media, television particularly, I think, we see people who are doing things that will inspire us to take on the challenges of our lives. People who lead by example, who are compassionate, who are fearless. And then there are those of us who will be channeling energies, the healers. And those healers are not all spiritual healers. There'll be healers who are just living what seem like normal lives, but they touch people with what they do, and they lift people's energy by the way they speak to them and the way they treat them. So this trip to Earth will have a lot of purpose behind it. One of the great challenges we take on when we come to Earth is we arrive with a sense of guilt. I mean, in the Bible, it's called original sin, and Buddhists tend to call it karma, and the Eastern religions call it karma. But it's the sense of guilt. Now, we could talk about this subject for all day as well. I just wanted to just touch on this because it does affect how you feel. And I just want you to be aware that you may well have come in with a sense of guilt. And that guilt will show different ways, but one of the ways is if you're a people pleaser. So you're always trying to make people happy, very much sometimes to your own detriment, almost through your own sacrifice. So if you consider yourself a person who can never say no to anyone, no matter what the cost to you, you're saying yes, it's because you have a sense of guilt that needs clearing. And we can do that. We can do that clearing. But this is the one of the problems of coming to Earth. We pick up this human energy of guilt. You are always trying to atone in some way. The other thing we tend to want to do is to fix people, put people right. That can sometimes lead into some looks like controlling. And if anybody ever says to you, you know, you're Mrs. Fix-It, just take one step back and realize that you're probably doing this not for the best reasons always. So that's one of the challenges you may have come across. By the way, if you've got any questions as we go along, put them in the chat box and we will have a chance at the end. We'll have a good chat and we're going to have opportunity to discuss things on the way. So third dimensional behavior, while we're here, we'll see what goes on in the third dimension. We tend to be very physically orientated and this is very much a material world, and we see things through the eyes of judging of body image. Are you the right shape? Are you the right size? Don't like yourself. I mean, I don't think there's a single woman here tonight who hasn't at some stage disliked themselves. Why would you dislike yourself? Because you're in an environment of judgment. In a third dimensional world, you're controlled. Your mind is controlled. Your emotions, desires, and beliefs are all controlled by others very often. We have lost the material in the third dimension. We tend not to really 100% understand that connection we have with others. And we need material security. It's really important to us. We don't have the trust that we're looked after as we would if we were in a purely spiritual state. And as I say, we're very much into judging by appearances. One of the problems we have moving up into the fifth dimension is that we have been brought up in a third dimensional world with parents, grandparents, teachers, who all, and governments, society set up for a third dimensional living. And it's becoming quite a critical situation for us now as we are moving forward, that a lot of the organizations that are set up on our world are set up for that third dimensional perspective of right and wrong and judgment. Success being the success of material success and how much money you make. We've, up to recently, and it's changing now, but we've needed a religion for guidance. We've come through a patriarchy, where men and male energy has dominated. That is affecting us, and we are changing it now, and I'm going to talk a little more about that just now, but that is affecting us, and it affects the way we see the world. We're still talking about our Father in heaven, and that hasn't changed that much. In the third dimensional way, we make decisions very often based on fear. And going into my older age at the moment, I'm surrounded by my friends who are worried and fearful of their future. They're fearful whether they have enough money. They're fearful of whether they'll be able to cope. There's a lot of fear in our world. In the fifth dimension, we would accept that all will be well and everything will work out for the best. if you're too optimistic like that now, people think you're a bit pie in the sky. Establishments we need establishments, we need organizations, and otherwise we fall into chaos. It's because we're not good at managing ourselves, or we cannot control the other people around us who may be struggling with their issues and therefore are not going to be necessarily sociably acceptable. So there's a lot of stuff going on around us. And one of the big problems we can see with youngsters is very much, and it's not just youngsters, but the drugs that people are using drugs and looking for drugs as ways to cope. They're also looking for drugs, in my opinion, because this driver to be in that fifth dimension, in that beautiful state, that driver is driving you to that state, wanting that ecstasy, knowing that it's there, but not being able to reach it, and looking for ways to find it and finding it through drugs. So it's not too surprising to me that a lot of people are on drugs. And it'll change, it will change. It will change once we've changed the vibration. We won't need to look for drugs to make us feel good, because we'll feel good all the time. By the way, I'm an optimist. So, ascension. What is ascension? That word's used a lot at the moment. And ascension is the moving on from one dimension to another. The ascension is the raising up of the vibration to meet the vibration of the fifth dimension. So we've got a high vibration and we're moving ourselves up to meet it. At this time, when we come into the state of ascension, we don't need to keep coming back to Earth. We've reached the point where we do not need to come back to Earth and take the challenges of Earth and all those the experiences that we go through here. We come to the point where we've accepted ourselves as love. We've healed the wounds. And that's a big part of this, is to heal the wounds and the imprints from the experiences that we've had. Because every single bad experience you have will leave an imprint on your spirit, energetic bodies. And that's what we as healers deal with. We're looking to release and transform those woundings, scars. Heavy energy sits as memories of bad things that have happened that you can't let go. And they're usually wrapped in emotions like the pain and the hurt and the grief. These emotions are what keep our vibrations down. And these are things that we have to release and clear to allow us to ascend, to allow us to move on to the fifth dimension. Now, when you reach the point, now, I don't think this was quite my moment when I was standing outside McDonald's, but if I'd allowed myself to, and if I was able to, I could have, at that point, surrendered to that energy completely. And if that was my life purpose, and if it's meant to be, I could have disappeared into a flash of light at that point. When you reach that dimension and you stay in it and you've reached it fully, you can then transcend the world and you can leave your body. There are quite a few people who've done this, and I've come across people in India who know gurus who've just turned themselves into a being of light and gone. Whoosh. That's it. Most of us, though, will wait till we pass over and we die and then not come back, because we've got things to do while we're here and we want to finish those things. But you never know. I hope nobody's going to do that tonight, disappear into a flash of light. But will you warn me if you're going to do that? Now, the other thing about ascension is it's not just as an individual that we're ascending, but the whole of humanity's energy is rising. And when enough people on earth, enough souls on earth reach that point of the fifth dimension, that higher vibration, because we're all connected, we are then one big mass of energy. And when enough of that energy reaches a certain vibration, the whole lot will go as well. And this is beginning to happen. And this is what we're experiencing at the moment. We're not only experiencing our own personal rising of vibration, but we're experiencing what's happening to the whole. And we often call that mass consciousness. It's every single person on earth is affecting everybody else. So once that happens, then there is a chance that we will all leave and we won't need to use Earth again. And maybe another group of souls will come in and make use of Earth. Maybe we'll have screwed it up so much nobody else will want to come here at all. So that could be the case. Well, I want to go into that one because we're going into a whole new world then of talking about the climate, etc. But it's all part of what's going on, you see. We're individuals, we're changing minute by minute. And every single thought that everybody has affects everybody else. So we are being challenged by what's going on around us all the time. Okay, so the fourth dimension. We don't talk so much about this, but it is the transition. It's a state of being in between the third and the fifth, and we're moving in and out of it on a daily basis. Which explains why some days you feel fantastic, you feel good, maybe affected by the way the moon is and your star signs, as Judy and I were talking earlier. We're affected every minute by the planets as well as everything else, as if we needed that to be thrown into the mix. But there are days when we feel fantastic, and there are whole periods of time when we feel we are that living, loving person. We are that person who feels at peace with everything in their world. And we are seeing things through the perspective of light. One of the thoughts that came to me when I was preparing this talk was that, you know, a lot of how we feel about where we are and our state of being is our perception. And I'm thinking, you know, two people can be in exactly the same place. They can have be in a wonderful place in this perfect state. Everything's wonderful around them. But one person will think that there's something wrong. Another one will think it's perfect. So it is perception. A lot of this is perception. And I was thinking, you know, I can just imagine arriving at the pearly gates. And there's one person saying, whoa, my God, look at the light shining there. Isn't that amazing? And somebody else is saying, yeah, but those gates need painting. So very much how we see things. And of course, the way we see things is affected by our experiences, but it's also affected by the way we decide to see things. And really important that we really look for the upside all the time, because that raises our vibration. And the whole purpose of all this is to keep our vibrations up as high as we can. So the fourth dimension is the state of in between when we're coming and going. So I just want to talk, and we'll have a little breakout in a minute, but I want us to look at how these shifts are affecting us. And we call this raising of vibration a shift. And I'm sure you've been through it yourself. You go along at a certain pace in a certain way for a certain length of time, and then you suddenly and I always go through a hugely emotional stage when I'm going for this. I have two things that happen to me when I go through a shift, and it's like you're lifting up your energies, going up bit step by step, and those shifts, I cry all the time. I cry all over the place. And even now my husband says, oh, you're going through a shift. It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? But he says, you're going through a shift. I'm crying for no reason. And then the other thing that happens to me is my fingers and my feet peel. So I don't know if anybody else has anything like that, but we can talk about that later if you do. The effects of the shift generally, though, are that you will start to find that there's synchronicity in your life. You'll find that when you want something, it comes. I'm sure some of you are finding this already. If you need somebody or you need to meet somebody, bang, you will meet somebody. You'll come across just the right person or just the right product, just the right supplement or medication or idea or inspiration or opening into a new job. You're looking for a new position, and it happens. Click, click, click. Synchronicity. And when you put out there that you want something, and I do suggest you always do, but put it out there, because the whole of the universe is waiting to hear what you want, then it starts happening. It comes to you. And the power of manifesting, the law of attraction, it starts to work for you. You find it easier, suddenly started finding it easier to forgive. It's easier to let go the hurts and the people have upset you. You start to forgive them and accept them. Don't necessarily like them, but you're able to accept them. You can't do that when you're in that hurtful and suffering stage. But once you start to rise above it, we will talk about rising above it, you can start to forgive more easily. You'll also find it's easier to let go attachments. Now, I can remember years ago, I was reading about a guru who, Sai Baba was the guru who said that all the suffering in our world is caused by attachment. And I thought, well, I don't really believe that. I mean, I love this person, I love that person, and I'm attached to them in that way. It doesn't feel like that's a suffering situation. But I do understand now what he means, that when we are so attached that we are affected by that person, the way that person treats us, and whether that person's with us or not with us, we will suffer. We suffer grief, we suffer pain. Part of this journey requires us to reach the point where we are not attached to our possessions. We're not attached too much to people. And it doesn't mean to say you don't love people, but the attachment of the things that happened to you in your past. Are you still attached to the hurt of your parents to you when you were young? My father left when I was born. Fortunately, I wasn't aware of it, so I'm not particularly attached to the drama of that. But a lot of people do get attached to the dramas of their childhood. Most of our challenges come in our childhood. We can't escape them. That was the plan. It's the idea that you then spend the rest of your life healing and overcoming the things that have happened to you when you were younger. And from that you grow, you get strong. And you're raising your vibration. But it's easier to let go as you evolve. You become less judgmental as you evolve. You're less critical of yourself and other people. You become more loving and caring for yourself. Have to work hard at this one. I have to work hard at this one. I'm sure everybody else does. Quite excited that I've allowed myself a bit more pampering. That's good. Old teachings, of course, were that you always had to put others first. Now we teach that you have to look after yourself as well as look after others. We've left the Piscean era, which was one of sacrifice. We're now in the Aquarian era, which is a time of loving and caring for ourselves as well as other people. It's the feminine energy now, which is often more nurturing. As the shift takes us, and as we shift, we become less interested in material goods. Well, it doesn't mean to say you're not going to still have a new handbag or a new suit, but it doesn't matter so much. Things don't matter so much. As you're more spiritually inclined, the physical things don't matter so much. And we're certainly moving into a state of being less controlled or controlling. One of the hardest things of all I've found is this feeling I need to help everybody, especially family members, how to run their lives. There's a very narrow margin between caring for the way other people live and trying to boss them and control them and tell them what to do. Everybody has to learn their own way forward. And as long as we're there to support when needed, are there when people ask for help, it's a big difference pushing that help onto them. But these things all get a lot easier as we shift along and we rise and we evolve. Further effects of the shift, we become more intuitive, more knowing. You just know that's the right thing to do, know that that's the right house for you to live in, know that this is the right person to share your life with, know that this is the right job. Just know. You don't have to use your mind to logic it out. What you're doing is you're moving from mind-based to heart-based. And when you're heart-based, this is when the instincts come in, because your heart is connected to your higher self, which is that part of you that never comes to earth, which holds the high vibration. And it also holds your store of experiences from every lifetime. It's like a huge database of a great big library of a database that you've accumulated through all the things you've been through, everything you've understood and learned. It's there for you to tap into. The way we tap into it isn't from our minds. We tap into it from our heart centers. That's where the link starts. And it goes through the higher chakras and it connects that way. So the more we focus on what our heart's telling us to do, the better we're tuning in to our higher perspective. Higher and higher. It's all about going up. This lift only goes up. It means that you choose to do the things that feel good for you, not that you feel you ought to be doing, you should be doing. That should and ought is third dimensional thinking. third dimensional behavior. Now, there are some downsides to this shift. You become more sensitive. Now, it's good to be sensitive up to a point because your sensitivities allow you to be empathetic, allow you to feel what other people feel. And that's good. That's good because that's that connection being made. But those people that you're connecting to can be going through very hard times. And their energy, if you open yourselves up to it too much, can bring down your energy and bring you down. We all know that. I'm sure you've all experienced that. Certain people you spend time with, you find they drag you down. You feel exhausted when you've been with them. And as you shift, so your sensitivities grow, and therefore you need to be able to manage that situation better. I'm going to talk a little about that in a moment. But you also may find not only you are more sensitive to people and crowds and generally energy everywhere, but you may find that you're finding yourself sensitive to food. Different foods upset you. So your body, your physical body, which follows your spirit, will also find it difficult to cope with certain foods. I don't know if any of you have experienced this. We can discuss this in the next discussion group, which we will do just now. You may also find that you get very low and unhappy when you're in work that doesn't suit you, or with a partner that doesn't suit you, or where the relationship shifted, but you've gone one way and the other one's gone another way, and you're not feeling it anymore, not feeling the love, not feeling the connection, not feeling the togetherness. The same with friends. And you may find that you stay in that low feeling until you decide to change. Change friends, change partners, change jobs. People, if you've noticed, 100 years ago, people got one job and stayed in that job for the whole life. It doesn't work like that now. This is part of the effects of the shift. I mentioned my particular emotions when I go through the shift. You may have your way of feeling it when you're moving and things, when you're rising your vibration. You may well be feeling energies of the planets much more now. I was awake at 3 o'clock this morning, and it wasn't until I realized somebody said to me, oh, by the way, it's full moon. I thought, oh God, yes, full moon. I cannot sleep through full moon nights anymore. Used to be able to, not anymore. All the cosmic shifts. We are getting more and more interested in what's going on in the cosmos. We're getting more connected to our universe. We need to, because that's affecting us more now than ever before. You also will probably be going through some difficulties with your health. As old toxic energies are released from yourself and from everybody around you, your health will be affected. And as you shift yourself from one level to another, you nearly always find it will affect you physically. I've had a broken ankle, which was, you've got to change, and you've got to change. Your body's speaking to you. You've got to change. I didn't listen, and bang, broke my ankle. Now you've got to listen. Now you've got to change. Now you've got to slow down or go in a different direction. I'll be interested to know just how many of you are going through some physical manifestation of this shift that we're going through. So I think it would be a good time now, Gina, if we have a breakout. I'm going to leave this entirely in your good hands to manage it. So everybody gets a chance to talk about your own experiences of the shift that's going on.
Okay, and let's stop the screen sharing and then we can see everybody. How many people do you want to have talking to each other, and how long are we going to have them speaking for?
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
Muting, I think.
Okay, we need to have mute all, and you unmute yourself. Okay, I've muted you, Anne, if you want to unmute yourself.
Right, okay, I'm now going to go back to...
Okay, do you want to take questions and sharing?
In a moment I will, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. So I just want to look at the bigger picture, because as humanity shifts, not only do we have our own issues to deal with, we have to deal with what's going on in the bigger picture. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the world, and everybody's saying, well, are we really moving forward? Are we really raising vibrations? Because things that are going on are so scary and horrible, and there's a lot of bad stuff going on. Well, there's two things going on here, two or three things. One is that when we heal, we have to accept that we've got a problem. Nobody can heal any part of themselves unless they accept that there's something that needs to change, to be changed. And the same thing goes for humanity as a whole, which is why we've suddenly found an awful lot of stuff that's being covered up, deceptions, bad behavior, lies, etc., etc. And this goes from governments, large corporations, this goes to businesses, this goes in our families even. But these bigger picture situations have to be seen to be healed. So it looks like a lot of bad stuff's coming up to be seen. It's always been there. It's just that now we're accepting it, we're seeing it, not necessarily accepting it in the sense that we're agreeing with it, but we are doing something about it. We can do something about it. So any healing brings chaos and upset with it. Whenever you have any healing, you nearly always end up in tears, you will feel bad, and then you'll start to feel better. So that's going on. We are also moving from the Aquarian age to the Aquarian age from the Piscean age, and we're moving, and this is a positive thing, into an era of the divine feminine, and that brings it easier to being compassionate and lead love and democracy in leadership. So we will gradually see more, not just women, but men who show compassion, who are honest and truthful. We might have to search a bit through our politicians, but there are some there. And the leadership generally will start to get better. But because of that, and there are quite a few out there now, in business as well, and in corporations as well, but the old energy, the male energy, the old autocratic male energy is fighting back, which is why we've got a number of dictators who are holding that old energy, and they're becoming more extreme, and the wars that are as a result of that. So that this is the turmoil that we get when things start to shift and change. The old energy will not want to give up. And I don't want to talk too much about the dark forces, but they're there. They've always wanted to put our light out. We're always having to fight to hold that light. And they're trying harder to shut us down at the moment. So we will find that there's a bit of a dynamic going on of energy that's trying to put us down while we are rising up. I'm going to lift this next. We're going to talk about it a bit more in a minute, but I'm going to be conscious of running out of time. One of the things I want to talk about is how you manage this shift yourself. You're going to be more sensitive, so I would suggest you do something to help seal your energy. And I would suggest you either use the blue flame or white light, whatever feels right for you. I have a symbol, which is a protection symbol, which is there, which you can use, which puts a shield around you. And it's important to keep, to say to yourself, I can manage this myself. Keep yourself grounded and nurture yourself. Accept that you're an empath, but do something about it. Do not surrender to other people's energies. Okay. So keeping yourself protected will help there. I'm going to move on from that one. I'm going to suggest there's two things that you need to do to help yourself. And one of the things you can do is to open your heart. This is to help speed your ascension. Now, opening your heart, being heart conscious, really important. Number one, always, does this feel right for me? Don't I should or I ought to. Push those right away. Focus on what feels right for you. And there's another thing you can use, which John Bologna Chazadek, I don't know whether anybody's read any of his books or followed any of his teachings, but he introduced me to the star tetrahedron, the golden star tetrahedron. That is two golden pyramids that spin, and all you have to do to call them in is you call in golden star tetrahedron to spin and become a light body around you. And that helps keep your energy strong and helps you to lift. Really useful tool to use in your meditations. Accept yourself. Work on loving and working on every day, seeing the best in yourself. If you've got any problems with body image or you're a perfectionist, abandon it. Perfectionism brings criticism. It always brings disappointment. You can never fulfill your own expectations because you keep raising the bar. So there's a number one thing to do, accepting yourself, work on it. Releasing guilt and shame. Do you have a guilt trip? So many people carrying guilt for abortions, divorce, leaving the children's father, leaving the children's mother. Did I do enough for my children? Am I doing or have I done enough to look after my elderly parents? These areas are full of opportunities to find guilt. I've written a little book called How to Care for a Loved One. It's all about holding on to your own strength when you're looking after others. These are the sort of things you need to think about. Let the guilt go. I'm going to do a meditation just now on when we can release this. Anything from your past that's troubling you, decide to move on from it. Leave it behind. Cut the cords, and literally cut the cords. Take a cotton thread that symbolizes your attachment to the past and break it. And keep doing it until you've decided, that's it, I'm not going back there. I'm not going to relive those old dramas. Now, a lot of what I'm coming through quite quickly here is in my book, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just giving you the headlines of things to watch out for and things to help you move through. If you find that you're judging yourself as not equal, let go treating success as how much money you make, and drop the blame, blaming others, even blaming the government, parents, anybody. As soon as you give blame, you're passing control away from yourself, you're weakening you, and you're dropping your vibration. You need to do everything you can to raise your vibration, and blaming anybody at any time drops your vibration, because it infers that you're the victim of that person. That's why we don't blame, because what can you do about it? Do something about it, but don't blame. So whatever you do, think of the positives. See through the lens of light and love wherever you can. You cannot change the world, but you can change the way you look at it. Okay. So I'm sorry to whiz through that one quite quickly, but those are the main points. And I'm going to lead you through a short meditation now. So we're going to do a little bit of healing and a little bit of letting go. So just drop your shoulders and relax. Calling in the blue flame of Archangel Michael to surround us, holding our energy strong and light. Calling in the highest frequency of light for you right now. And in your mind, just hold your intention to heal, release the past, to heal the wounds, and let go your connections to your dramas of the past, to let go your guilt. Calling in the highest frequency of light to heal, connecting you to your higher self. Bringing that energy of light from your higher self down into you now, to your mind, your body, and your spirit. Bringing the light down into all the hurts and wounds, the grief, and allowing that light to transform with love, with compassion, everything that hurts, everything that troubles you, and those old emotions, transforming them now, right now, back into light, right now. Clearing your karma with love and compassion, and releasing the guilt into the light, right now, right now, right now. Just holding that intention of letting go and lifting yourself up and seeing light and moving to light. Feel yourself lifting, feel your energies rising as you're filled with love in this moment. Right now, you are filled with love. You are filled with light. Calling your guides and angels around you to guide you through every day and your own personal guidance. Allowing the universal energies of love to flow into you now. And we see that light moving forward the next weeks, days, months, years ahead as you move in through the fourth dimension and up to the fifth dimension. Moving now, right now, right now. Wings beneath you, lifting you as you leave everything behind that doesn't serve you. It's your choice. Feel your heart expanding and opening wider and wider, and feel yourself taking the whole world into your heart, embracing it now, embracing everyone, every soul, embracing every living being into your heart. Wonderful. Good, good. Bless you. Okay. So I am doing my book. Let me come out of the share. Just to let you know, if you want to do more healing, I do healing sessions one-to-one, but also, and healing is a big part of this move forward, this moving upwards. My book is How to Heal, and there's lots and lots of ways in there that you can deal with guilt, with attachments, with all the wounds and hurts that you've gone through in your life, and helping you move on and move up into this beautiful state of peace. And it's a good place. And of course, you are going in and out of it all the time at the moment, but we'll all meet together up there and have a grand party. It's going to have got such fun. We do have a lot of fun in the fifth dimension. So, has anybody got any questions or anything they want to share?
I'm just going to put your website in the chat.
Oh, thank you. And also I'm doing a retreat in October, a live retreat, first time for a few years. And it is about exactly this, the moving into the fifth dimension and helping you release anything that needs releasing and healing anything that needs healing. Okay, thank you.
Looking at things here. Wonderful. That was very clear explanation of 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you.
So we know where we all are.
Yes. Well, we're all in that transit stage, and it's very hard when you're living down here to hold that high frequency. And to admit it is hard. We're challenged every minute of the day to do it, but we have to. If we have the intention, the most important thing is having the intention to hold that, be in the heart state, hold the intention of being less critical of ourselves. This starts the change. Nothing changes until we have the intention. Thank you.
I'm just looking at, I'm going to put it on big view. Do you want to take questions from people speaking?
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking through here. I have people commenting. I'll look at the gallery. If you want to ask Hannah a question, do the hands up or stick actual hand. This is an actual hand here, or a yellow one, a yellow digital hand. Your choice.
Thank you, Rancha. Lovely to see you too.
You've got a question or a comment of what they experienced in the meditation, or reflecting on their experience of being in any of the levels? Are people going in and out of the levels all the time?
Yes. And one of the problems we have is we were brought up by people in the third dimension. So everything that, our background and our programming is third dimensional. And this is something we have to work on again, shifting the programming of our mind as well. So it's a big job, but we can do it. Then there are the tools. There are the tools around to do it.
See if there's a message here.
And you know that you are going to be feeling it. I mean,
where's the retreat?
The retreat's in the New Forest.
Okay.
The Bartley Lodge Hotel in the New Forest, and it's from the 2nd of October for 3 days.
Lovely.
Thanks for
myself. It's gone out my head. Oh, and do you have an image of the tetrahedron? Is it literally?
It is literally.
In its physical itself, is it's two triangles melded?
It is, and it's 3-dimensional. So
yeah, I think I've got one made out of fluorite, but I can't remember the name of it. But thank you very much for naming it. Yeah,
when one sits on top of the other, one's up and one's down. One's the male version, one's the male and one's the female, actually. And when it spins, it actually looks like a flying saucer. So when you take a star tetrahedron and spin it, it becomes like a flying saucer. But it is a light body, and they're designed to help lift your energies.
Do we put it inside ourselves? We put it,
we put
go
it
into it, or do we surround ourselves with it? So we imagine ourselves in the center of this two pyramids. We're in one, another one comes in, and then we're in the center of that force.
Yes. And it also clears negative energies of thought forms. Like, you know, when you've been worrying about the same thing over and over, it becomes a thought form. That spinning light will shift it and move it and take it to a higher frequency.
It is amazing how imagining light can change our state, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So imagine, just quickly throw up a force field, Star Trek style, bring in a light, move energy off ourselves. It's all very good, isn't it? And quickly.
Well, you see, it's all there. All we need to do is connect to it. It's like this connection we have to every single being. It's all so scary for us to open up to it most of the time, but we can allow ourselves to open up to the light and the higher frequencies without any danger. I always protect first, though. Whenever I do anything where I'm opening up, I put the blue flame of Archangel Michael around me, or use that symbol I mentioned, showed you earlier, that puts a force field of protection around you.
So Violet's got a question. Violet, do you want to unmute?
Oh, I think I already have. I was just following on from what you were asking, Gina. I was really interested. You know, is there some place we can go, and is there a meditation perhaps to take us into the
the golden star tetrahedron?
Yeah.
Just wondering whether I've got one on my YouTube. Look, I tell you what I'll do. I will put a meditation up tomorrow on my YouTube account. It's Anne Jones Healer. That's my YouTube account, and I will put it in tomorrow.
I also noticed, and I don't think they're there anymore because there was a break in the recording, that some people put some comments up to begin with about being in the 9th and 10th dimension. I think it was somebody called Charlotte that mentioned that, and I wondered if if you wanted to comment on that, or maybe Charlotte would like to ask the question.
Yes, I did see something briefly myself.
I'm Jones. I'm a spiritual guide, spiritual healer. Sorry. Mute.
Where's that coming from? So I've been told that I'm working in 7th, 8th, and whatever dimensions when I'm working. And I think what happens when we do spiritual work, conscious work, I'd say, when we're working consciously with the light, we are raising ourselves to very high vibrations. So I think that's where those higher vibrations come into it. I'm not sure that we are in that vibration all the time, but I am pretty sure that a lot of us work with those higher dimensions. Because we're in a human form, I don't think we could possibly be in that highest vibrational state all the time. That's my view anyway. I think we could do well just to get to the 5th and be happy with that. And maybe when we're working and we're meditating, when we meditate, we can take ourselves as high as we want to go. So if you want, you could experiment, but always protect yourself first. And then you say, I want to go to the 7th, 8th or 9th. What does it feel like? Just ask and see what comes up.
Sam, coming up to, well, we are just over the half hour, so I don't know whether we have further needs for discussion. I don't know whether you had a comment, Judy, but I'm going to do a formal close, and then if there's more questions afterwards, we'll do that. So, and on behalf of everybody, I want to say, wowee. Thank you for taking us on that journey and explaining, what I think a lot of people are experiencing, those physical linking the things that we may be experiencing to this ascendancy, and laying it out so clearly, as you always do in your healings and talks. Thank you so much. It was great. People are commenting here. So big appreciation, Anne.
Thank you very much. And just one last thing I'd say.
Yeah.
Those of you like symbols, which I do, as you know, I use the symbols a lot. It's a good language for intention. There are some symbols in my book for ascension, which were given to me for ascension. So they're in the book as well. So there is a lot more there. And if anybody wants to connect to me, my email address is annejones88@gmail.com. annejones88@gmail.com. So you might want, if you want to follow up with any further questions.
That is wonderful. I'm going to stop the recording now.